Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BETSPERTS.
Welcome to The Deep Dive and the grand finale of the team-by-team previews today. Number 16 of 16. We go put a bow on the NFC West. How are you doing this Wednesday?
It is bittersweet, isn't it? Like I don't want to ever say like, hey, these are a pain in the ass, but after like 14 of them, it's like, and it's not only the hey, I'd like to get to the regular season. I think that's the biggest part. Like you can taste the regular season come. Some of the stuff you're reading, some of the previews that you've been using.
What?
I can taste the regular season coming. Oh God. Yeah, we have to clip that. Jesus.
All right.
And it is. We are an NC-17.
We are a little
podcast.
punchy.
Jesus.
This is I'm a little punchy. This is the
It
end.
is-
This is the end. It's very exciting.
It is the end, and yeah, no, I'm not only just happy to be done with these because I mean, again, we've talked about it numerous times. They're very beneficial for our preparation. I've adjusted my power numbers just based off a little here and there. Like, oh man, I kind of missed this when I put out my initial numbers, or things
same.
that have happened throughout the preseason.
Oh, yeah.
Paying attention to
Absolutely.
that. A bit of a strange year, obviously, with the full ass gap between week 4, essentially the final week of the preseason and then the regular season. It's kind of nice. It's going to be just straight up all college football, and I have a couple fantasy drafts. That'll be fun, and a holiday weekend. So yeah, closing it up here with the Rams and Niners, and we'll get to next week. Next week, this time.
You'll be in Vegas.
I'll be in Vegas. You won't quite be there yet, but we will be doing a Let's Talk About Every Game podcast, which has been Those are my favorite. Obviously, halftime shows are my favorite because those are the best and the best interaction with you guys.
Yeah.
But the full breakdowns on Wednesdays are the greatest. Again, if you guys enjoy those, do join us in the chat. We'll do a Bishop Sycamore breakdown eventually here. We'll get to them on the docket. But yeah, final one, Drew. What are you looking forward to next week?
Let's take care of a little business, a little house cleaning, right? Housekeeping. You will get a podcast Monday, even though we will not be recording it live. We are going to record a podcast for your earballs on Monday that covers a summary, an encapsulation, if you will, of a rundown, a bullet rundown, bang, 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 bang. Every team, 32 teams, will just give you our basic summary. We will not deviate from what we said on the pod. There may be some updates, obviously. Things like, Mac Jones now being the quarterback changes things for the Patriots, obviously. But, we will put our best spin in as tight a package as possible so that if you missed some of the preview pods, you can get all of the good stuff in one pod, and that will be our gift to you for Labor Day. In addition to that, we have another bonus pod coming up, which I'm very excited about, in the same sense that we talked to our friend Suma and got his take on the season. We will have a surprise guest that we are recording with tomorrow that we will bestow upon you. So if you have travel plans for Labor Day, if those travel plans have not been canceled or disrupted by COVID, that's great news. And you will have an extra podcast to listen to if you like to do that sort of thing while you're driving. So that's 2 more podcasts.
Yeah, truthfully, that was my favorite. Just getting we hadn't done an interview in a while. I think we're going to try to do this a little more through the season, just get some random interviews. And obviously Suma's a very smart cookie. We got another smart cookie coming in. And yeah, anybody who is watching this on, let's say the Periscope or is watching it on Twitch, that'll be pretty much just on YouTube. The bonus one will go up sometime in the next few days. I don't know. You'll have to subscribe, maybe turn on alerts. That might be something you have to do. And again, if you're listening to this in podcast form, of course, do follow the YouTube, because that's where it will go up first if you want to get it as soon as possible. And with that, I do have one more housekeeping.
Oh, go for it.
As Patrick says, suck at Twitch. No, Twitch is okay, just not YouTube. But yeah, final housekeeping before the season starts, because it is the final preview show. We've done this in the past. We'll do this again. We are going to be doing a BETSPERTS NFL picks pool.
Ooh,
Andy, what do I have to
love
do
a picks
to
pool.
enter this picks pool? Like literally nothing. You literally have to do nothing.
You're telling me this is
The
free?
only thing you have to, yeah, the only thing you have to do is do it on the app, on the BETSPERTS app, is make at least, and just so we're gonna grade this by win percentage, so we just don't want Tommy Hot Streak to go out and go 6-0 and quit. You're not gonna win. You have to pick at least 75 games against the spread, full game throughout the season. Highest winning percentage wins, and we'll grade tiebreakers, however. But yeah, the winner gets $2,500. We're gonna split up $5,000 between first through fifth, and again, it's free. No proxy needed. You just go ahead and do this, and again, like if you're already on the app and you're putting your plays in on NFL, you're already entered. You just entered. Did you know that? You're in.
That's awesome.
I've put some I've only put totals in, actually. So
I have 9. I have 9 NFL plays in the app already. 9.
Yeah.
For week 1.
Only 2 for me, but yes.
I'm not kidding,
again,
by the way. If you want to know the 9 plays that I've played for week 1 and you want them early, you can get them in the BETSPERTS app, and only on the BETSPERTS app. That's the only place that I've posted them. Besides when I gave some out to our outstanding YouTube audience one day when we were you were on vacation. Gave them some week 1.
Oh yeah.
We gave them some week 1 early release. But the BETSPERTS app, the football contest, $2,500, man. That's huge. That's nice. Imagine having a great NFL season, tracking your plays, and as a bonus to that, you get $2,500 because you were using an app to track them. Like, that's freaking slick. That is excellent. Can't wait to find out who wins. We should just bring them on the pod. I'll throw that little cherry extra on there. If you end up winning and you want to be interviewed, we'll
interview.
We'll bend your ear.
Interview. How did you do it? How did you?
Yes. We'll twist your arm and give away all your secrets.
Somebody's going to get hot. So, all right. Yeah. If you have any questions on that, obviously bug at BETSPERTS. Matt can answer any questions. But again, like I said, it's literally putting your plays in the app, and it's graded against the whole season. Winners get a bunch of cash. And with that, let's try to get a bunch of cash by figuring out how to bet these last 2 teams. We'll start in the beautiful Bay Area, where this team played 5 out of his 8 games. Home games last year, if you remember, because
I forgot that
there were some very, very strict. That was the biggest thing that stuck out about the season outside of the injuries. The injuries, obviously, massive story. I don't know. This podcast might be 2 hours if we try to break down all the injuries. Like you can just say there's a couple different metrics as far as like average games missed.
Off the top of my head, I think everyone got hurt.
Every single person in all the levels, like they were in the if you go by like positional groupings, Football Outsiders had them in the bottom 5 and like 4 out of the 6 positional groupings. It was pretty rough for them. So obviously this was a very good team everyone was high on, and then the whole team got hurt, and they had some other issues. There was some COVID, people got hurt, came back, and then got hurt again. And then on top of that, they didn't get to play 3 of their home games at home because of very strict rules up in that part of California, and they were forced to go play down in Arizona. You know, how many of those?
About that too.
How many of those games they won down in Arizona?
I think they were 0-3, right?
They lost every single last one of those. You are correct.
I don't think they covered the spread in any of them either, or maybe they did the last one.
I couldn't speak to that. I'm not sure, but yes, just like I wrote down a pun and I didn't even lead with it. I was like the 18 Colts, luck was not with them.
You know what's funny though? They played 4 of their final 5 games they played in Arizona, because one of them was at Arizona. So they just spent December in the desert. Christmas and New Year's away from the fam. You would have thought they would have
got used to it.
Yeah, Christmas and New Year's away from the fam. All right, let me go back a step and talk about this time last year with the San Francisco 49ers, who are coming off of a Super Bowl run that ended in the 3rd quarter, maybe the 4th quarter. I can't really remember when that ended per se, but they came up ever so shy, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs.
It was like the beginning of the fourth.
And what would you say about their offseason? They basically ran it back. I mean, there was a couple of moves last year between the almost winning the Super Bowl and the start of the regular season. Their schedule wasn't especially hard, I didn't think, sequencing wise. They started out very soft, I thought. Cardinals, Jets, Giants, Eagles. I was like, oh man, they could get off to a nice little start here. But things went, and honestly, I bet some Jimmy G MVP, because I thought in the third year under Shanahan, he was going to take a meaningful step forward. There was a lot of things to like about that defense, being able to repeat some, maybe not as good, but at least be close. All of it went up in smoke pretty much week one. They lost at home as almost 7.5, 8-point favorites to the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, whatever. Week one divisional game.
Yeah, it was
tough.
like a touchdown.
Week one divisional games are fluky. Like, I don't think you really ever want to play a divisional opponent week one. Things can get weird. So I was willing to give them a pass. They go on the road to play the Jets. It's their requested road trip, Jets Giants. They stay over the week at the Greenbrier between those two games in New York. And while the results would tell you they righted the ship, you nailed it. The injuries were just unfreaking believable in this Jets game, and then the Jets game especially,
almost
and
all
then
in the
again
Jets
in the
game.
Giants game. Yeah, but the hits kept coming. I mean, they lost everybody, and we didn't get to see Deebo Samuel play last year. We barely got to see Nick Bosa play last year. I mean, a bunch of the blue chip guys that we expected to be meaningful contributors for this team never really had a chance. After their, and I honestly, I think their defense was like literally the JV defense against the Giants. They still held the Giants tonight.
Yeah, those were a couple games where it's
Yeah.
like, what do we do with this? Like, how deep are they? Are the backups good enough to be bad teams?
Yeah, but you remember what happened next,
those
right?
Those are tough teams to handicap. Those games are tough, and just kind of flipping forward too, like just it always felt like maybe we'll turn a corner and these injuries will go away. And it just never did. Even it's like, all right, Jimmy G's kind of healthy again. Let's get him in. It's like, oh my God, he's not healthy. And they did. They pulled him at like in the second quarter at halftime, I believe. They got him back out after they put him in the first time. It's like his leg ain't right, or ankle, or whatever it was. And yeah, like Bosa coming off a Rookie of the Year season, barely plays. If at all, was that preseason? I'm trying to think if Bosa even got on the field now. There was a couple of those where it's like, oh, this is
Bosa went down in the Jets game, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was Bosa, and then massively. I mean, just everywhere on the defense, they lost. Even what you want about Richard Sherman, they lost him for a bunch of games. Lost their safety for a bunch of games. They lost basically your three best defensive ends immediately. You had issues on the offensive line, obviously a quarterback or two. And then, the running backs, they were going through those once in a while. They were losing, Kittle. Kittle, very, very important.
Massively
and then
important
you
player.
already talked about Deebo. But yeah, like right off I looked at their season-ending roster. It was, God, there wasn't the third DN too that I can't think of. But yeah, Ansah, Bosa, Jimmy G, D Ford, Raheem Mostert, Mullins, 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Even the damn kicker. Like they had 18 guys that were on the IR when the season came to an end. You're just not gonna ever have a good year like that.
No, and you know what? It makes them tough to evaluate. It makes the season tough to evaluate. But even more than that, it made it very difficult to price this team correctly week in, week out. And you saw massive market overreactions from one week to the next. I mean, after getting downgraded massively against the Giants, they beat the tar out of the Giants on the road. They get upgraded. They go get caught by the Eagles as favorites. People are like, oh, they'll bounce back and get home against the Dolphins. The Dolphins throttled them. And then at that point, the market just completely dumped on them. I'll never forget this. The look ahead week 6 on the Rams game was Niners hosting the Rams -3. That number opened +3.5. That was one of the most severe market overcorrections I've ever seen. Of course, they went outright against the Rams 24-16 in that spot. It wasn't even as close as that score, in my opinion. Beat the tar out of the Patriots. But then they get beat by the Seahawks, Packers, and Saints, 3 legit teams that were relatively healthy, that were playing relatively well. They didn't really stand a chance because of the injuries. And at 4-6 heading into the bye week, the season was over. Yet they got to play spoiler. They beat the Rams and they beat the Cardinals down the stretch. Both of them, those games ended up mattering in the grand scheme of things. They finished with a record of 6-10, 3 wins in division. They beat the Rams twice. They beat the Cardinals once.
I saw that 3-3.
Yeah, and
swept the Rams 2 years in a row.
Extremely tough team to price. Extremely tough results to break down and try to make sense out of what was what, which really does open up huge questions about how to price them this season. And you saw it this year as well with the way that they were priced. So what did you think of their offseason? And I guess what was the timeline like for them in the quarterback evaluation process? Did you get the sense when the season ended that was maybe the last time we're going to see them go to war with Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he was only 29 and even though we only saw 6 starts out of him a year removed from a Super Bowl run?
Yeah, we did kind of feel that way as far as like just not only maybe some of the success, although he's been very good when he's been healthy, just because it's a good team with a good coach and decent pieces around him, but kind of felt like, maybe Shanahan felt like he was coaching with one hand tied behind his back. When you have something like that, where even if it's just an off injured rather than maybe a bad quarterback per se. So kind of felt like there's maybe a trade. A lot of people speculated a Patriots trade, but I think a lot of those problems just worked its way out with the fact that it was such a thick ass quarterback market in the draft. And again, they kept their cards pretty close to the chest on what they were doing after the trades. And eventually we came to terms with this. And again, Trey Lance, pretty raw, but I trust Shanny, trust this. I guess it's kind of hey, I'm my stamp on this. And like, this is, obviously he's not on the hot seat, and neither is Lynch, but if this backfires badly, I mean, that's a good way to end your run here, and he'd get another job. Like, he has enough track record to obviously get another job. But yeah, the offseason did not go in any way, shape, or form how I thought it would. Culminating with having the 3rd pick and picking Trey Lance, I guess. Outside of that, I was happy with Max signing.
Yeah,
like that's a spot you needed some help. Sanu doesn't really move the needle, but it's like $1 million contract. I'm fine with that. Like a little more depth, maybe slot guy. The Sermon pick, maybe a little bit of value there. Like if you can just upgrade little pieces here and there throughout the draft, that's like taking a running back on day 2, day 3 isn't a bad idea. And then they did lose a few pieces, but I never was a Witherspoon guy. And I'm trying to think who else. Maybe Solomon Thomas. There wasn't just a ton of turnover here. There's going to be, pretty much running it back on defense. Maybe added a piece here. I think another D end came in. I'm trying to think of the guy's name now too, but they, outside of Mack and Sanu and some rookies, not a lot difference. And really the preseason, what I've watched so far, and again, it's so hard to glean anything from the preseason. I'm a fan of what they're doing so far. I guess you have a new offensive coordinator, even though Shanahan's got his fingers deep enough in that pie. And technically, yeah, you do have a new not technically, you do have a new defensive coordinator because yours was poached. And yeah, you get some picks for that, like get some 3rd round coordinators. But it is, I think they'll be fine. Although I do like Saleh. It was, with that many good players, I think somebody under him can probably take over the reins and have as much success. Maybe they need new team doctor, new team physician, new team something, but they, because this injury thing, everywhere I've read, it's like, hey, they had really bad injury luck. But if you look, they've had really bad injury luck for like 8 years. And after a while, it's like, man, are you guys, maybe, it's not like, oh, the doctor sucks. It could be, coaches being like pushing guys who maybe should be taking some time off for a light injury and then turning it into a bad injury. So, oh man, I don't know. I don't know what quite to make of that. So, um, I I love this team. Like, I'm just gonna say that to start off. Like, I'm super excited. I love this team last year, and like, there's nothing stopping me from loving this team outside of what the hell are they gonna do with the quarterback? And I think maybe it's gonna be like kind of like we saw in the preseason a little. I don't know. We'll get to that, but yeah, the biggest change here for me is obviously the Lance thing, and I don't know. Maybe I'd like you to run through scenarios with him, like what you do. Should we do the thing like what you think will happen and what you wish would happen? Like what's most likely and what
Mm,
would you most like for
yeah.
Trey Lance? Because I kind of have there's some different ideas there too.
Oh boy, this is tough. Overall, I thought the process could be somewhat criticized with how they went through the draft. Obviously, they traded up into the 3 spot. It seemed like
For Mac
everything they've
Jones.
said it seems like everything they've said was true, was believable after the fact, which was they didn't have, or actually after the fact they claimed that it was Lance, always Lance. They only ever had eyes for Lance, which is what you got to say. But my read on the situation is they traded up with a couple of guys in mind and said we're going to go through this evaluation process, and that's risky. Considering what they gave up, because they gave up the entire future of this franchise. But by all accounts, people commenting on what the way that Trey Lance has looked in practice, he seems like a unique talent. And if he is as talented as the people who have seen him play in practice say, then my best case scenario is put him in the game as soon as possible. Let him take his lumps against the likes of the Lions and the Eagles defenses. Those are two defenses he should have no problem moving the ball against. Let him get some reps against the Packers. You're going to run the ball 40 times in that game anyway. Just put Lance out there and use some interesting run schemes and gash those guys. I would like to see Lance get 3 wins under his belt, weeks 1, 2, and 3, before he has to take on a Seahawks team, which is a little tougher to prepare for and, not as great a matchup for you. However, it seems pretty clear that they were always intending to go with Jimmy G, and Lance getting hurt sort of towards the tail end of the preseason here, I think cemented that. So it's going to be the Jimmy G show. And while that's fine, and a year ago I was excited about his potential to kind of take the NFC by storm and go to the Super Bowl again and compete for an MVP, I'm definitely a lot cooler on Jimmy Garoppolo because he hasn't taken any steps forward in his game and he can't stay healthy. But that doesn't mean he can't give you competent quarterback play for 5 weeks here, and then you prepare to insert Trey Lance into the lineup coming out of the bye. I, for all I can tell you, they're intending to start Jimmy Garoppolo all season, which is just mind-numbingly stupid, in my opinion, if they actually do that. I don't think you realistically want to wait an entire year having drafted a guy to see him on field to get some tape on him. I mean, look, you want some evidence on why that's stupid? Look at what the mess the Packers found themselves in right now. They didn't get,
Yeah.
Love didn't dress for a game last year. They got they have no idea what they have in terms of a quantity there at all. And he gets hurt in preseason game 1, so you don't really even get to see him much this preseason. And they are completely behind the 8 ball in terms of what to do going forward from an evaluation standpoint. You do not want to find yourself in that position if you are going to build your franchise around Trey Lance. And the kid has the goods by all accounts, and Shanahan can make it work. I don't know why you don't just start him immediately here. This is it's weird decision
Yeah.
making, and I don't love this
The
process.
the push is like he's super young, even for like he's one of the younger quarterbacks who would have ever have started a game. Which kids are more ready nowadays. You can't compare this against like when Bobby Lane played his first game for the Lions back in 1948. Somebody fact check that for me. But again, the level of competition too, and then the fact that you have a quarterback that you're able to ride to the Super Bowl. I don't know what they'll do because of just all the subterfuge and fucking around they did in the draft. But I feel like I hope it turns into. Do you remember when Flacco played and then Lamar would kind of dink in, and it was fun. And other teams have done this now too, and it's as much as people pissed and moaned about Taysom Hill, stuff kind of works, especially when you give him a change of pace. Like Jimmy G is not scrambling for you. You're not worried. You bring in Lance, all of a sudden the defense has to make quick adjustments on the field without getting to talk to their coordinator. Like bouncing him in and out, I think he needs to be playing a lot. If he's not starting, he needs to be playing. Like he needs to be in the game plan as doing some gadget stuff. And then Jimmy G probably gets hurt anyway. And then the better, the best case is to just play him and see what you have. But out of the two cases of
before moving too far,
let's just say
moving too far, what's your gut read on the gadget stuff? Will it work? What's your percentage that will work?
High, because it's Shanahan.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Lower
with
it. Lower with I liked some of the stuff I saw in the preseason from this offense so far, but I think it can't just be strict gadget. It can't be like he's in, it's a run, or it's always like if it's just he's in, it's an RPO no matter what, then that shit doesn't work because people just like, oh, he's in, they're doing this. Like they have like 3 plays for him, and that's hyperbole. But if they just get real dumb with it, and that's what I'm saying, he actually needs to come in and play quarterback in certain spots just as a change of pace. Again, I don't love it. I think we'll see it. But in the long run, and I'm not going to say when Jimmy G gets hurt because that's like wishing an injury, but you know how he is. He has a strong history of injuries. And if he were to get hurt, when he gets hurt, I'd rather have Trey Lance having 10 snaps a game than none at all, and working with the first team offense part of the time in practice than not at all. So in my mind, it's a lesser of two evils. Getting the gadget plays, even if the gadget stuff isn't that great, at least he's getting time on the field with the starters. So then when he has to step in, because the Jimmy G injury thing is probably what are the odds that Jimmy G misses a game? 35%?
Due to
higher?
Injury or ineffectiveness or both?
Injury, just injury.
Or
this could be an ineffectiveness too. If they're bringing him in gadget style and go gadget Lance, and then eventually they're like, Jimmy G kind of stinks. Like, what do we think about bringing this kid in more? I mean, again, in that situation, I'm happy that he got some snaps. It's better than nothing, because I just don't, they're not going to start him day one, game one. We know, like, that's the reality of what they're doing. We do believe it's a mistake, but in my mind, again, it's kind of all right, there's things I'd like to see happen, but this is the reality of it. And in my mind, getting the gadget plays would be better in the long term.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the Jimmy G staying healthy,
they should start him today.
The 1 year
he should be starting.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And the Jimmy G health thing, I mean, it looks like the one season we saw him play a full slate was the fluke, and that all of the rest of the time that he hasn't been able to stay on the field is the reality. So I guess if you're going to tell me when is he getting hurt, he's getting hurt week 4 against Seattle or something like that. I mean, that seems the most likely here. He's not going to make it, I don't think, through the first quarter of the season without picking up something. Maybe he tries to play through it in week 5, and then they use the bye week 6 to really roll out the full deal with Lance. I guess, I mean, if we actually see 10 snaps a game from Lance on offense, I will be floored. I mean, the gadget stuff
10 seems high
that has been promised. Yeah, when
6?
gadget stuff has been promised throughout the years, it's usually 1 or 2 snaps. And I got to tell you, it is super duper uninspiring. I'm thinking even, you remember when we got to see Jalen Hurts at long last, like week, whatever it was, 13, 14 last year. And it was like, oh my God, he was very obviously the better of these 2 quarterbacks. What in the hell were they waiting for? We had actually seen Jalen Hurts on the field with the gadget stuff under Doug Peterson, and it was hot garbage. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's Doug.
I know, but
I want to give Shanny a little benefit.
I know it, but here's the problem: is that when you have a young quarterback, the reps aspect of it is the important aspect. The getting comfortable being under center and looking at the defense and evaluating what's happening in real time, and understanding like the communication between your offensive line and all of that stuff. So, it's the idea of getting him some reps is more important than getting him. Lots of consistent reps is more important than just getting him 1 or 2 here or there. Because I can tell you right now, if you're just giving him 2, 3 spots stuff, and it's one or every one, a couple of those plays get blown up. A couple of those plays don't go like you think. You have an RPO, he gets tackled in the backfield, you lose a yard, you bring him off the field, he's hanging his head, like that kind of stuff. Like it doesn't help your team win in the short term, and it doesn't help him develop in the long term. So
And
I
that's
kind of
where
hate it, honestly.
I do hate the gadget stuff, and I guess in my mind it would be more of a change of pace where you give them a drive.
Okay. Yeah,
Like,
if that's the way they
that would
if
be
they
better
play it that way,
thinking.
I'm in. I'm in. If that's the way they
I'm
play
sold
it,
on that.
I'm in. I'm in. I'm in. And honestly, if we don't see him take any snaps in the real game at all, and they're just giving him practice splits, and they wait until week 6 to insert him, so he has a home game against the Colts week 7, that's completely fine by me. But you're going to need him to be game tested before you get to the end of the season if you're expecting him to be the guy to manage his first playoff run as a rookie. So,
and then just market wise, because I bet Wilson immediately at like 10, 11 to 1. I got some Mac Jones at 10 to 1. Like, how, if it gets to week 6 and Lance has not played yet, how high is his number? And if Jimmy G looks bad, I think anything, I mean, 15, or is it lower?
No, I mean it's going to be big. It's going to no. I'm thinking bigger. It's going to be big.
Oh, really?
It's going to be big. Oh yeah.
I think there's always going to be that hanging over them, like he's going to start eventually. Because if Jimmy G, I think a lot of what that number is depends how Jimmy G looks and how the media is treating it. Like Lance is nipping at his heels. If Jimmy G looks great, it's going to be a big number, and I might just not bet it.
Yeah, that's fair too. But he's going to get hurt eventually, so we probably will talk you into it because it's going to be a big number. Here's the problem. Mac Jones has the Jets week 2. He has a Texans game week 5, Cowboys week 6, Jets week 7. So in the week that Trey Lance may likely be making his first start, you could have 4 300+ yard games in the books for Mac Jones. And Mac Jones could be 4-3 as a starter. He could be 5-2 as a starter. And that wouldn't surprise me. And at that point,
that is the other part of the
market. At that point, the market is completely upside down on him.
And how the other rookie quarterbacks fare is a big part of that market too that I just kind of left out.
I'm assuming Wilson is a write-off considering his situation, especially with the offensive line. And Trevor Lawrence is clearly a force in the rookie of the year running, and he has a soft start to his schedule as well. But there are also questions swirling about how that offense is going to look and how he'll be used. So I think it's fair to put Mac Jones as the clear market leader for offensive rookie of the year, because through 7 weeks, he could be 4-3, 5-2, and have some really impressive statistics. Plus, people are going to get to see him go toe-to-toe with Tom Brady on Sunday Night Football, week 4. And that's going to be one of the most watched games of the entire season. And if he is even remotely competent in that, like, people are just going to gush all over themselves. You remember how they were after he was competent in preseason. Well, just imagine how he's going to, how people are going to lose it on themselves if he competes against the Bucs. Which he should, because the offensive line for the Patriots is freaking dynamic. So
there were people that pushed Fields down to like 5-1 off of like one throw. That I seen Twitter blow up when he had a couple good plays. Honestly, it wasn't even a full drive, and people. I mean, I remember there's one tweet. He says, "I'm sold, and I'm betting rookie of the year." It's like, I just struggle to take anything away from preseason. Maybe I'm too dumb. I just can't. I can't grip on, like, is this defense trying? Like, I'm not sitting there looking at all the numbers and pausing the all 22 and be like, who's even out there right now? I'm just looking at mechanics on those guys. So, and I guess we know what we want. We know what they should do. The interesting thing will be
honestly
seeing what actually happens.
Everything about this process that Shanahan and Lynch have gone through to this point has rubbed me the wrong way. Everything, how much they gave up, how the public you know, the public nature of the decision at 3, the seemingly indecision at 3, you know, throughout the process, and then now the indecision at QB1 when you have a guy that, by all accounts, clearly won the job if it was a competition in preseason. It's frustrating, and it tends to have consequences. It's going to have consequences for this team. I think if you expected to win a playoff game or even 2 playoff games this year, you probably needed to roll with Lance right out of the gate. That's my gut feel.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
this team. I just don't know how to.
Let's talk about the rest of the team besides the quarterback here. Top 5 roster, if healthy.
Possibly top 3 if quarterback is solved.
I mean, what's this offensive line rank? How's it? They got 2 new pieces on the offensive line, and Alex Mack, and who's the starting guard now? Is it Banks? No, Laken Tomlinson is going to start. Tomlinson was old.
Likely,
it's Daniel Brunskill. All right. Daniel Brunskill. What do you think of these guys being elevated into starting roles, or, you know, just in general? McGlinchey kind of underwhelmed. Offensive line, any concern?
If Mac works out, I think you got, solid left tackle. McGlinchey, okay. It was a name. You know, it was a. I'm not sure, trying to remember exactly where he was drafted, but I think he was probably expected to perform a little better. If Mac works out, he makes the guards better. Yeah, you probably have a rookie guard there, but it's top half probably. It's just not like a top 10 line. It's good enough, and it could elevate to top 10. McGlinchey gets a little better in his this year, and Max brings the middle line together. Mac. Yeah. So good offensive line, not great.
Okay.
Receivers.
Ayuk and Samuel,
good,
top half of the league.
Unless you throw
receiver
in
combo.
Kittle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now if you go Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle, the 3 guys who are going to be on the field every snap. That's a really solid trio. Sanu, you're probably going to see a fair amount of juice check out there in some 21. Maybe.
He's a good fullback.
Yeah, of course. I think it's really the running game that makes this offense click, which is insane to say in the year 2021. Can you imagine us saying like, oh yeah, this running game is so dynamic. We love this coach. We love this team. Like it seemed ass backwards, but it's so dynamic, and so the misdirection is used so effectively. The motion is used so effectively. The putting receivers in places to get yards after the catch on easy makeable throw and pitch and catch type of throws is
essentially extended handoffs.
It's spectacular. Absolutely cannot get enough of that. And honestly,
and misconception there too, like little misconception, gambling Twitter misconception too. Like again, nobody says running the ball is bad. Running the ball just to run the ball is bad. Running the ball into stacked boxes is bad. Running the ball on
early downs to establish the run for the sake of it.
Running the ball out of bunched formations is tragic's a great word for it. Running out of a bunched formation rather than some sort of spread or misdirection or a mesh RPO. And that's why, again, Patrick nailed it here. Predictability is bad. They do so much to cause misdirection and confusion, and their run scheme is good. It's like Baltimore. Well, they run the ball up, but they're good at it, and they do it at the right times, and they do it with efficiency. When you have teams and coaches, especially old school coaches, you say, we have to go establish the run. That's where it feels like you're just running a run play just to run a run play. You don't think you're going to oh man, this is going to be so efficient. We're going to have a successful play. This is definitely going for at least 5 yards on first down. It's just, no, we're doing this so that the linebackers will move up and we can run, or so play action works later. That's the thing we shit on. So they're a running team, and not only a sign of a good run scheme is being able to bring in all kinds of different backs and watch it still kind of work. They went through a cavalcade of guys over the last couple of years, and it seems to work anyway. So I'm fine with them continuing to base it around the run and a good run scheme. And if the quarterback is a part of the running game, hint, hint, Mr. Lance, that makes it even better.
Yeah, no, 100%. And honestly, I think of the easy pitch and catches is like you said, as an extension of the running game, which is just because it's such a high probability of success is huge for these guys. And as you mentioned, Kyle Shanahan continues to be one of the most well respected, in my opinion. Fairly well respected offensive minds in the NFL, and I have great high ceiling on this team. Offensively. Similarly, defensively, actually, we didn't even mention they did lose their offensive coordinator. LaFleur heads east to take the role with the Jets.
Yep. Yeah, they lost both coordinators. They got like a half dozen. It's way too many. They got a few picks for.
I guess Mike LaFleur was passing game coordinator.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he was kind of the O coordinator, but it was still Shanahan's thing.
Mike McDaniel was the run game coordinator, and he was elevated to just O-cord, which is that's cool. I like it when you have one guy as opposed to splitting that job.
You can just sit next to Kyle in the meetings.
Yeah, and DeMeco Ryans was elevated to defensive coordinator, and by all means, he sounds like he is cooking up something pretty interesting on the defensive side of the football. Again, with assuming health, this defensive front seven is among the best in football. I don't think there's any debating this. Armstead, Kinlaw, Bosa.
I will not debate you.
I don't know what to expect with Javon Kinlaw. I have high hopes for his NFL career, but I don't know how healthy he is right now. But Nick Bosa, Kinlaw, Armstead, that's a super solid foundation. You have decent reserves in D Ford and Maurice Hurst. Arden Key, a bunch of guys that you've kind of picked up and can kind of plug in as role players instead of asking them to do it all is great among that front four. And then you add to the mix the best linebacker in football, ? Fred Warner. Top 3 linebacker in football, Fred Warner. What's your read on that?
Yeah, I was going to say as far as fronts, if you want to group it all and then throw Warner in there, front 7. And again, like we're very down on this team, but like the Steelers are right up there, even losing a player, and probably Tampa, I guess, too, with just what they have, not only from the edge, but they have run stoppers too and good linebackers. But this, the ceiling for this is the best front 7 in the league. And the floor is what happened last year with a massive amount of injuries, I suppose. But the floor without injuries is like 7, 8. Like this is not ever leaving a top 10 for as far as front 7. This is a force. The weakness will be a little bit in the back end of the defense in the secondary. And if that turns out to be less of a weakness and more of just a weaker part of a really strong defense, you might be looking at the best defense in the league. That's where the ceiling is, and I'm very excited to see all these. It's just like all the DNs got hurt in like 2 or 3 weeks. It sucked. Like I was excited. I hate watching players get hurt. I like to watch good teams do good things, and the Niners. Not only that, they became very tough to handicap because week in and week out, it's like everybody's hurt, but they're playing the Jets. Should we bet this game, or what are we doing here? I'd like to see them stay healthy because this could be a very fun group.
Do you want to guess who my highest? I can tell you right now already that Fred Warner is my highest rated linebacker coming into this season, and the gap is actually kind of bigger than I thought. You want to guess who number 2 is?
Oh, how are you defining it? Like would you?
I have a Z score. I have a Z score that is blended between PFF grade and approximate value from Pro Football Reference.
No, I'm saying, how are you defining? Like, what about these linebackers who are kind of edge rushers? And like,
no, I'm thinking like off-ball linebacker.
Oh man, I can't even think of somebody I'd put in there. I hate all off-ball linebackers. God. The couple, there's a couple up in Seattle I used to like, but they're getting older, and I'm not even sure I'm so enamored with them anymore. I'm trying to think of somebody right like I love Bobby Wagner, but he's old.
He is. It's true.
Where do you have him? Curious, because he was my favorite
Let
forever.
me look that up. I think he's on the cusp of the top 10 for me.
Yeah, he's still got to be around there.
My number 1 is Warner. My number 2 is Darius Leonard of.
Oh, there you go.
The Colts.
That makes sense. That's a good one.
Devin White of the Bucks is number 3.
Devin White, Tampa. And again, I was like, God, I should just think on like what I said, Tampa and Steelers, because, like I said with Barrett Sue, Vea, JPP. Who's their other linebacker? White and one more.
Levante David.
Yeah. Yeah, Christ, that might be your best defense, honestly. That might be your best team. That might be the team. That is the team you're trying to fight through if you're getting through. Oh, Zelensky in the chat got it. Wagner and Leonard there. So
Wagner is my number 5. So he's in the.
And again, this section is called positive injury regression, and we're just going to use it to we're going to use it to list off how good this team is, because this is how good this team should have been last year, because they had wild injuries. And if that sorts itself out, that's why this team's getting talked about on a Wednesday and not a Monday. Very high hopes for this team, especially 100%. Based on a kind of soft schedule.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The schedule is a huge factor. Huge factor. You want to bring it up? Let's jump right to the schedule.
Yeah, let's pop up the schedule. And yeah, like depending on how you rank it, it's different people rank it differently, but it is pretty easy. The toughest part of the schedule is the fact that you're in the NFC West. I mean, that's the tough part, really.
Yep.
You finished last, so like you outside of your division, you play a division in your conference, which is the NFC North. Again, a softie. You play the AFC South, which everyone in this division does, so it's a softie. And then you play someone who got the same place as you in one division across in the different conference, and 2 in yours that you aren't playing the total division of, which would be the South and East, and you get the Falcons and Eagles and Bengals.
You want to look at
the toughest part? Yeah, it's your division and the Packers.
This is the easiest schedule that I see on all 32.
I think I have it second.
This is my easiest schedule, and some of it's sequencing, some of it is opponents. It's a blended. They really don't have any disadvantaged spots except for that one tiny one, home against Arizona. Don't love having to go at Seattle and play in prime time, but that's one of 2 games you're an underdog. One of 2. And oh, by the way, the 2 games you're an underdog, one of them is by 1.5 points, one of them is by 3. Okay. You're favored in 14 of your 17 games. You're a pick'em at Arizona, which seems insane to me as I sit here and think about it now, but that's what the look ahead line says. You are. So
is it really a travel spot if you played there 4 times last year?
It's your house. Yeah. Although you won there. You beat them in their house. You beat them.
You lost to everybody else. Washington was streaking at the time, and a couple
Buffalo beat everyone. Yeah. So
what are you gonna do? Beat Buffalo with your B squad and the Rams. And again, real quick before we go through the stuff, what is your percentage chance that the Week 18 game, and let's pretend it matters. Let's pretend this game matters to both teams, whether it's playoff positioning or getting in. What are your odds that the San Francisco 49ers are favored, or at least to pick them in that game by the time we get to
about 55%?
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah,
that's kind of right.
I think it's high.
I was gonna say 65.
I'd say it's high. I'd say it's pretty high. And I am specifically factoring in the idea that average injuries happen to both teams. The Rams are going to be substantially worse off from a power rating standpoint than the Niners, just based on. I mean, not that the Niners are especially deep, but just that Shanahan has proven he can compete with a couple of second string guys. Even crazier though than the fact that you're favored in 14 games. You're favored by more than a field goal in 12 games. That's bullish. I mean, that is, and again, this is not to say that the market is like crazy high on them from a power rating standpoint. Right now, their power rating, if you
And again, there's a Green Bay game in here, so that number is a little different, but they're still, they're still a favorite.
They're basically even with Green Bay based on my updated power rankings. But this team is the 7th power rated team in the NFL right now, just behind the Baltimore Ravens, just ahead of the Cleveland Browns. That's pretty high. 3.5 points better than an average team on a neutral field based on the market. They are expected to have the 13th best offense and the number 1 defense. Ooh.
What's your position to neutral?
I am 4 points over average. You're 5? Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're a little higher on these guys in the market. You're maybe a lot higher. I know. I mean, the difference between 3.5 and 5 actually is kind of tiny.
It's not big, but we are higher than the market. And again,
that's only about a Pythag of 3%. That's only a 3% Pythag, by the way, to go from 3.5 to 5. Did you know that?
I do now.
No, 62% gets you to 3.5. 65% gets you to 5.
Hit me with the math, but they are doing I'm thinking that green highlight box is a planned trip to the East Coast where they don't travel back to San Fran. Am I right?
That is exactly correct. And I mean, 2 years we have the Greenbrier in West Virginia is the locale this year. Yeah. In the last 2 seasons, this has been a very positive thing for this team. And it's kind of, obviously this is a tiny, tiny, tiny sample size, but we have this random tiny sample size of good coaches making this decision to stay local when they go across the country, when they have back-to-back weeks across the country. Belichick did it a million years ago when the Patriots had like 4 road games in one season against the Oakland Raiders, the Niners, the Seattle Seahawks, and I want to say it was the Chargers or something, right? They had four road games in the West Coast, and they clustered them, and they stayed west both times, and they got great performances on the second of those back-to-backs because they basically had a no bullshit week of practice, no distractions, no day-to-day life stuff, no like actually being a human. You were just a football robot for that whole week, as you had sort of like a concentrated mini camp, for lack of a better term, in the week leading up to that game. And then we didn't see many other teams take advantage of this over the years. I kind of forgot about it even being an angle. And then the Niners pulled this rabbit out of their hat 2 years ago, the year that they went to the Super Bowl. And they did it between weeks 1 and week 2. I want to say they played week 1 in Miami, week 2 in Cincinnati. They stayed in Youngstown in between. And I can't tell you if I've ever seen a sharper performance by any team in any week than we saw from that San Francisco 49ers team in week 2. They performed at the 100th percentile in every facet of the game.
They were like -1.
99. Yeah, they were -1. And how do you know? Because you laid it with the Bengals. Yeah. Or you put them. I think the Bengals might have closed favorites in that one.
I think I took a Bengals money line at like +105 or something. But that smart move, obviously, by a smart coach and a smart team, smart GM.
Yep.
Twice they get opponents off back-to-back roadies. Their bye is at home, which is nice. A couple of East Coast games, but again, it's at Chicago, at Jacksonville, at Cincy. So those East Coast time zone or Central for a couple of them, but traveling for early games in the East and Central are all against lower end teams. Kind of mitigates that. You get Arizona off a Thursday. You get yourself off a Thursday playing a terrible Houston team, what should be a terrible Houston team. So not much for, along with a soft schedule, not much for disadvantaged spots as well. Even the disadvantaged spots are mitigated by low-end opponents. So maybe I should move this up to the easiest schedule in the world. And God, I didn't do a win total Wednesday today, but maybe it should be Niners over 10.5, or what is there? Let's get to the odds. Let's take a look at the odds. It is 10.5. They gave them some respect here, especially, and you can say, oh, well, that's a lot because they only won 6 games. But again, context. They only won 6 games because of the craziest Charger-esque injury luck. So if you can find a flat 10 with decent juice, I feel like that pushes an awful lot. And you're probably getting into 11, 12, 13. What's their ceiling if the quarterback situation works out, Drew, with this schedule?
Oh,
I'd say
14
Green Bay's a real tough
3.
out.
14-3, 15-2, honestly.
Yeah, they can win a shitload of games. I like this team. I feel like I don't know what to do with them, though, because it's like the quarterback situation is keeping me away from the Super Bowl odds. Like, what if Jimmy G comes out and just stinks to the Super Bowl? Do we see 20-1 to win a Super Bowl? Do we see 8-10-1 to win the NFC? I guess some of that depends probably on how Tampa and Green Bay come out and look right away. But this is a team I'm going to be monitoring the markets pretty closely on, because I'm going to be betting on them at some point if I'm allowed on these numbers. And I might still add this regular season win total now that I've gone over the schedule again.
Yeah, that's really the key here. Thus that they are set up to bounce from a very disappointing 2020. I did not play the Super Bowl or the NFC at 12-1 and 6-1. And some might ask, oh, that's because you're using the strategy of building a portfolio and you're going to wait and try to scoop them at some better time this season. I don't know that there's going to be a better time than now, but I don't want it. And it comes down to inexperience at the quarterback position come playoff time. I think there is a you made the question of like, oh, what are the chances Jimmy G gets through the season healthy, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it is very low that he plays 17 games and is the captain of this team in the playoffs, in my opinion. I think this is any bet made on the Niners to do anything in the NFC or the Super Bowl is betting that Trey Lance does something in the playoffs in his first ever go.
Yeah, and then we're betting a rookie in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I guess what? Sometimes rookies look great in the playoffs. Pat Mahomes looked great in the playoffs in his first ever go of it. The first year he was the starter, he was the MVP of the league, and he made it to hosting the AFC title game, and he couldn't get it done. That is how difficult it is when you are the first and you are going up against the likes of Tom Brady, who has done it so many times. When you're going up against the likes of Aaron Rodgers, who has been here a lot. Like, those are the idea that you're going to get a pretty favorable price on San Francisco if you want it in those two matchups, I think is high, right? So realistically, if you see something, if you see a matchup advantage for the Niners that you think they'll manifest come playoffs, you're going to be able to bet them in those games. You don't have to have a ticket in the 6-1, 12-1 range to make money on this team in the playoffs.
Your rollover
you see it. Right.
Your rollover might be 10-1 for the AFC.
They're not getting the 1 seed.
NFC.
They're not beating out Tampa for the 1 seed, in my opinion. It's possible, but I don't think it's happening. Which means they're going to have to win 3 playoff games, and it's going to be Trey Lance's first ever big show. That doesn't mean fade Trey Lance in those spots. It just means I'm not willing to hold numbers that are this low on a team that you're counting on that much of an outlier performance from someone with zero experience. So it's a pass for me.
Yeah, it is hard to back a rookie in the playoffs. So maybe I'm waiting and looking for a better price to win the division. Maybe I'm waiting to look for a Lance price, and maybe I'm going to be backing this team in the playoffs against, because I'm looking at this now. So it's 14 plus, how many championship games do you think Rodgers has been to?
He has been to 4. He is 1-3.
He won 1. Yeah.
He won 1. So he lost 2. He's lost 2 on the road and 1 at home.
So yeah, Brady and Rodgers have 18 conference championship game appearances, and you might be starting a rookie. Maybe
they were both in the conference championship last year, so it's not even really like they've been that far removed.
Yeah, maybe we just look to bet them against the spread in the playoffs.
I think you're going to get a good price. Honestly, I do. And that's even if you want it at that time. And again, this might be summation bias at play here, but the way that the Niners handled the Packers so effortlessly 2 years ago in the NFC title game, I am forever looking for an opportunity to back San Francisco against the Packers, because it's not a fair fight. It's just not. And some of that is because of the scheme that the Packers run defensively. Some of it's personnel. But the Kyle Shanahan knows how to put those guys on their damn heels. And you might get a very favorable price to back San Francisco against Green Bay in these playoffs. It could happen.
Yeah. All right, so close the book, tie the bow on them, and I'll talk again about where we'll put a bow. Today, anyone who missed it Monday, we'll be out in Vegas next weekend. We'll be signing up for the Circuit Super Contest. I'll be doing the Friday show with Mo live from somewhere. We'll be doing some live shows out there. We'll be live from Vegas for all the shows we do. And Friday night, you can hang out with us if you're out there. Literally, all you have to do is download the PrizePicks and make a deposit using our promo code, like $25 in there, and then I'll buy drinks for you for 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. 3 hours of free drinks. We've invited people. We've got people from VSiN. We've got people from Circa. We've got people from WinBet. We've got a couple bookmakers. We've got several handicappers.
Patrick's coming. Yeah.
Patrick from the chat will be there. Like it's gonna be a nice, cool hangout, and we'll buy your drinks. So
you know what? I gotta just take a real quick aside. The positive response that I've gotten from the people that we've personally invited has been been heartwarming. It's been awesome. Like people, like I've been like, there's a lot to do in Vegas on a Friday night. There's a lot. And I was like, I don't want to be an imposition, but we'd love to see you. And people are just like, oh, I'll be there on the calendar. Can't wait to be it. The response has been like, it's been glowing, and I could not be.
That's why we did it 4:30 to 7:30, because there's a lot to do on a Vegas Friday night. So we try to catch them early before the real nightlife starts. Get them loosened up before we go out for the evening. Who knows where the evening will take us? Because I don't have much to do on Saturday. But yes, and again, if you have any questions about how this works, literally you can DM me. My DMs are open. If you were wondering how to get your PrizePicks account and fund it and that's your ticket in. You can come hang out with all of us and drink. And if not, if that doesn't work out and you're out there, you can, we'll be drinking all weekend. I'll see you Saturday maybe. But I would encourage you to do this because it'd be a lot of fun. And again, the Rams, the final team.
Hey, let's do this. Did you play the under in UAB Jacksonville State?
Yeah. Can you tell me where that game's being played? Not the city, but the venue.
Is it not being played at the Jaguars TIAAF CREF Arena?
I've heard it's
America.
I've heard it's at the Crampton Bowl.
Is it really?
Oh. That's what this live line says. The Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama.
The Crampton Bowl. I thought it was in. I thought Jacksonville State was hosting.
I don't know, man.
Anyway,
the Rams season. Okay, they were the best defense last year. Honestly, like based on my stuff, they led the league in the lowest score as far as fewest points allowed. It was a good team. They just didn't have enough. And again, we talked about this with the Seahawks episode. We were fine looking at that and being like, well, they're not going to beat the Seahawks. And they didn't. Or excuse me, this other way around. They did beat the Seahawks. When we got to the Packers, it was like, a goodbye, Irene. And I'm trying to think of how much they won that by. It feels like it was at least double digits. But man, the Packers were good last year. Goff, I guess we'd seen enough of him if you're that coach. And McVay said, I'm going to trade. And it was surprising, I guess. But I think it was another thing like the Jimmy. It's not that dissimilar to the Jimmy G thing, where they went out and got a quarterback high in the draft when you have a starter who was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. We didn't even mention that. The last time a team drafted a quarterback in the first round that close to winning a Super Bowl was if you throw out the Broncos, because Peyton Manning retired. but it was the Bears in like '87 after winning the Super Bowl. And Jim McMahon was not what made that team go. So it was an odd move, and this one was probably more expected. I think everybody kind of knew McVay was frustrated with the limitations of the Goff.
Yeah,
And
no, I didn't think they were
as
going to
much
move on
as
from McMahon.
Are you talking about the Bears?
Yeah.
You're old. You probably remember that team. I barely remember the 27 series. But yeah, that was the same year. Anyway, I will say, because we're gonna kind of dog on this team a little, and we're not as high on this team as the market, but they clearly have an upgraded quarterback, especially based off some of the stuff we saw from Goff at certain times last year. That's my biggest takeaway from last year is like a defense is nice and a good coach is nice, but if you don't have a quarterback who can carry you to, what would they win 10 last year? So again, they lost
Yeah.
the Niners twice. The Niners were beat up 49ers twice. We lost to the Mets. They had the Wolford game too, I suppose, but
they had
Seahawks,
they had two scheduled losses in the first half of the season, which was tough.
Yeah,
the loss to the Bills.
The Bills game.
Was
the Bills game loss. At Bills was tough.
That was a scheduled loss. You got to go Eagles, Bills back to back, and you don't stay on the East Coast. That's tough. And honestly, the fact that they made that a 3-point game, that changed my power ranking on this team. Like even in not covering, I think I had Bills -2.5 in that one. But the Rams came hard in that second half, and that really kind of shaped my opinion of both those teams over the first half of the season. But then the loss to the Dolphins week 8 was just a wild one. That was their 4th trip east, 4th trip east in 7 weeks. You know how hard that is? That's hard. And it showed because they fumbled, I think, and gave up fumble sixes twice or 3 times in the first half of that game. Not how you want to end the first half of your season heading into your bye, but nonetheless, they came out of their bye and they got an impressive win against the Seahawks. They got an even more impressive win at the Buccaneers in primetime on Monday night, followed by getting their pants pulled down again by Kyle Shanahan, a notable theme of the Sean McVay regime, to be honest. But then
that was a weird time for Tampa with us. Like we were every week we were really, really having a problem putting a pin into where Tampa was at that point.
Tampa didn't help. Bizarrely suspect in primetime games last year. I never figured out what was going on with that. It took them until the Super Bowl to perform well in a primetime game. The remaining schedule was a lackluster finale. That you mentioned, the Jets loss was an earned loss. They should have lost that game based on the way they played. Even though the Jets were an absolute afterthought at that point in time, and you were fighting for a division title still, and that basically took you out of the race. The Seahawks that lost the next week sealed the deal. And then it was the John Wolford show against the Cardinals. But your wild card win against the Seahawks really, in my opinion, that win and the fact that it happened in the playoffs really crystallized the market rating on this Rams team into this season. Would you agree with that? The fact that they were 6-point dogs in Seattle and won outright convincingly against the Seahawks, I feel like really made people sit up and be like, you know what? Rams are good. And in fact, people went back to the window and they bet the Rams the next week in Green Bay on the basis of how good they played against the Seahawks. Of course, they lost that game convincingly to Green Bay. But I feel like the playoff win, really has kind of made people establish their prior pretty soundly on this Rams team. Would you agree?
Yeah, and again, so much depends on. It just feels like the 18 Bears, where it's like the defense is doing so much to hide the rest of what's going on with this team, the slow dissolving of the offense.
Oh, exactly.
Like, I don't have the stat in front of me. I might pull up the game book on this one. They sacked they sacked Wilson a bunch, and he's tough to sack. Get on some of them, but like I feel like Donald had a couple, and maybe a D end had a couple. It was a really good performance by the defense because, like, again, the Wolford thing was never going to be, oh my God, Wolford, and uh, when the defense does that sort of thing, it feels like you forget about it, especially when you see that many points on the scoreboard and you go look at, like, oh, they put up 30. Like, if you just go look at that later on, it's like, oh, that was just really good performance by the Rams, and you don't think about exactly what happened. And that was the Goff and Wolford game, the mix it up one that we talked about earlier. And God, I need to find these sacks because I feel like Wilson got hit a lot.
They sacked Wilson 5 times in week 16 and 5 times again in week 18.
Yeah, there we go. So
six times in week 10. So in total, they had 16 sacks on Russell Wilson in 2020.
It's a good way to keep him down, just keep hitting him.
Holy shit, that's a lot.
Again, like hard 2018 Bears vibes, and without the crazy in turnover luck, but still, like, maybe just third down luck, not third down luck, just being so good at so many things and having so much good for you defensively, it hides a lot of problems. And this is a hard team for me to gauge, because it's like, is this slide that I think the defense is going to take negated by the upgraded quarterback? Maybe. I don't know. Like, that's going to be a big thing for me. This team maybe has the widest range of outcomes for me in the division. Because I do like Stafford, and I like the coaching staff. But if the Stafford thing just doesn't gel right away, 10-6, it might be the better year out of these two.
Yeah,
this could go sideways.
Well, let's hang on to our real evaluation for a second here, and I just want to put I did the math, an exclamation point.
Yeah, I got way
on your Russell Wilson point there. Russell Wilson was sacked 47 times, and the Rams had 16 of those. Rams accounted for 34% of the sacks on Russell Wilson over 3 games on his entire schedule. That's absolutely,
that's a nice share.
That's insanity. The 2020 season for the Rams was kind of a failure ultimately, because even though they get to the second round of the playoffs, they never realistically had a chance to win the Super Bowl. They needed to be more. They need to be closer to the top of the standings, get some home games, maybe get the bye. And the fact that they had to go on the road to Green Bay was obviously not good. Even if they got the win in Green Bay, they were going to have to go on the road to Tampa Bay for the NFC title game and beat Tom Brady. So, they set themselves up. They made it harder on themselves than it had to be, getting the 6th seed to begin with. And this was a team that was, again, kind of constructed around stars and scrubs, and your stars stayed healthy. So you got a good year out of your plan. Like, you literally, like, this, our plan is we have a stars and scrubs roster. Our fingers are crossed that 2 things will happen: that our stars will stay healthy and that our scrubs will actually perform better than we expect. And both of those things happened. The problem was your quarterback took another step backwards, and it was a quarterback that you invested a ton of money into. And so now your hands were tied. And honestly, like, if you told me before the season, like, hey, you're going to have a playoff win this year and, you'll be in the mix, some people will think you have a chance. And, oh, by the way, you're eating an enormous cap shit sandwich from Todd Gurley. Like, yeah, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, let's get through this. Like, we could do this. Well, now you get another one with Jared Goff's situation, and you ship him to Detroit. You have to give up more assets to do it, and so now you have basically leveraged numerous years in a row where you have traded away your entire draft for proven players, and you have to do it again to upgrade your quarterback position. And when we move now into the offseason and we talk about the upgrade to the quarterback, I don't want to spend too much time on this now, because we're going to we have a whole segment dedicated to it in a minute. But it was clear that they needed to do something, and they acted decisively, and they got a guy that has a chance to have sort of a career renaissance. Never really realized his potential in Detroit. Don't think he ever won a playoff game, even though I think he was in 3. He lost to the Saints, and he unfairly lost to the Cowboys because of a very unfortunate penalty towards the end of that game that was picked up, even though it was a very clear penalty. Am I forgetting a playoff win? Did he lose to the Eagles too? I think he was 0-3 in the playoffs, just off the top of my head, for Matt Stafford. Do you remember?
Without fact checking, that sounds very right for the Lions. And it's funny how you mentioned the Rams, like, hey, you got to the playoffs and you don't have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Like, anytime the Lions got to the playoffs in like the last 25 years, that was the same thing. It's like, hey, you're here, cool. Like, you staying for 1 week or 2 this year? Like, it just, I'm not even sure if 2 was something that actually happened, but it's been rough sledding up in Detroit for quite a while. And
3 playoff appearances.
They had a good quarterback. They had some pretty good receivers. It just, the coaching, the scheming, and everything else didn't work out right. But is there anything really else to hit on outside on changes outside of the trade? Maybe the defensive losses, but I kind of want to leave that for later too. So
yeah,
I mean, should we just
who was added?
The draft.
Yeah. I mean, Deshaun Jackson, but and you added somebody that you're going to put into an injured reserve slot. So good job, I guess. Real quick to close the book on Stafford's playoff history. He made the playoffs 3 independent years: 2011, 2014, 2016. All 3 times he was a wild card, so he was on the road at New Orleans. He lost playing a great game to New Orleans in the Dome. He went on the road against Dallas. He lost playing a good game. Again, not a fair loss in my opinion. And then his 3rd playoff appearance was an embarrassing defeat at the hands of the Seahawks, also on the road. So he, we haven't really seen him what he can do, when under the bright lights, because all 3 times he was number 1 on the Lions, so he was already at a disadvantage, and number 2 he was on the road. So, he may be the answer to kind of get McVay back into the winner's circle, take him back to the Super Bowl, but not on this team, not this year, in my opinion. So let's talk a little bit more about the quarterback upgrade, I guess. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Oh yeah, no, we doubled down because defensive coaching attrition we have is a whole segment, and that was all the opposite.
Yeah, let's get into the defense. Let's kind of just let's
go. Let's keep going.
Work out the Stafford thing first, and like I said right off the bat, likely an upgrade. Almost certainly likely an upgrade, and I want you to poke holes in that. Like
higher floor, right?
Like, you mentioned like the bright lights and like playing in a different, learning a new coach, new city, big city. Not, I guess it's still indoors, but I mean, what goes wrong here? Poke some holes in this being an upgrade.
I completely.
I don't have a lot for that.
Completely agree that Stafford has a higher floor than Jared Goff. Okay. Completely agree that Stafford has a higher ceiling than Jared Goff. He is about the same distribution quarterback, but shifted up the ladder. Goff was never getting you above probably top 10, 10th. He was never breaking clearly into the top 10, especially considering how good quarterback play is getting now with the younger guys who have come into this league. Goff probably was never again cracking the top 10. Stafford still could. Goff almost certainly under pressure. If anything happened to your offensive line, you had no chance. He was giving you nothing. Stafford at least has a little bit more mobility, a little bit more, kind of gunslinger nature, a little more Brett Favre in him, and just making a play down the field out of structure, which Goff does not. The potential problem, the poking in the hole, is Stafford's not the healthiest guy. He's not able to avoid the injury. And I know that maybe seems silly to say that that's a skill and it's not random and it's not luck or whatever, but his
Those
underlying
things compound.
they compound. He's not young, but he manages to find his way into trouble from an injury standpoint year in, year out the last handful of years. Do you want to guess for me how many years has Stafford played?
11.
Ooh, I think you're correct. Exactly 11. I thought you were going to be a little shy or a little high. He has played all 16 games, quite a few times actually. However, he has been on the injury report for multiple weeks. In the last 4 years, he has spent extended time on the injury report, and he missed half of the season 2 seasons ago, where he was in his age 31 season. So, what was that? A back injury too? Do you remember? I think it was a back.
That's not great. My back hurts sometimes, man. You don't want long-term back injury. That's not great.
Here's a little more cold water. You ready?
Okay.
My grade for Stafford peaked in his age 23 season in 2011. And it has been flat since 2011 through his last year that he made the playoffs.
Flat, but where was that average grade relative to neutral or relative to the league?
Like between 10, like right at 10th, basically.
Flat, but good.
He's been the 10th best quarterback forever. Okay.
We've been coming to the same party for 10 years.
Yes, exactly. Like until his age 30 season in 2018, he dipped. His age 29 season, he dipped even more. Against a bunch of that was because of injury. And then last year, he really only got back up to 2018 form. He did not return to his top 10 value that we saw from 2011 to 2017. So I guess what I'm saying is I will not be shocked if we saw the best of Stafford, even though it was with a worse coach and a worse team, potentially.
Yeah. All right.
I won't be shocked.
It's enough cold water to help out the next one, because the real cold water we're going to throw is during the defense and coaching attrition. Like, I wanted you to poke some holes. It's a game we play offline sometimes. We did this. Remember, we did it with the Browns right away before we started these. Like, poking holes and why something could go wrong is probably a good exercise. I don't know. I do that with every bet. I try to make a case for the bet against me.
How different is the career of Matthew Stafford from the career of Philip Rivers?
Boy, not like Stafford said the F word probably. Like, that's it.
I guess Philip Rivers had a lot of good seasons after his age 32 season. So there's some hope there's some hope that you get another 5 years out of Stafford in LA.
Yeah.
And that you can build around him. But you're going to have to do it without draft picks because you gave them all away already.
That is the other part that, again, we talked about additions. Your first pick was 57th overall, Tutu Atwell, wide receiver, Louisville. And you did have a bunch of picks, but a lot of them were on that third day. Like we said, the only other addition was Deshaun Jackson. He didn't do a lot to shore up this defense. And if it's going to be stars and scrubs, it's getting close. We're getting close to losing that S on stars and scrubs. We're like one player away from calling it Aaron Donald is a star and scrubs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel about Leonard Floyd, I guess, but
I mean, I like Jalen Ramsey, but yeah, I know what you mean.
No. I'm talking about Jalen Ramsey being the other player. Leonard Floyd. Yeah. Leonard Floyd would be.
I don't like Leonard Floyd.
Possible third if you like him, but I think we've seen the best of him.
He's not on my first page of D linemen in terms of value.
Where do you have Micah Kaiser?
I can tell you in a second, but I wanted to make a quick point before moving on about the draft choices. So you mentioned they only had Tutu Atwell this last year, really, in the first 2 rounds. The previous year, they only had Van Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
This is 2 years in a row now where they have effectively abstained from taking talent in the top 2 rounds. Give me a qualitative grade on how good last year's draft was and how good this year's draft is. A? A+. I mean, these were
For
two of the most talented college drafts that I can remember in all of my
the
years
overall
caring about
draft.
this. Overall,
What
strength of the draft.
not only that, but last year was one of the most talented wide receiver crops in a while. And not only
Yeah.
just the first rounders, but down into the third round, there were some really good players. And then this one as well, like especially in some in some of your weaker spots, some of the spots that you needed to backfill and fix and, get better so you could, improve. And really they don't have I don't know where I'd put their massive weakness because I don't give a shit about running backs all that much. But like getting a high end receiver changes the outlook of this team. Like having a first rounder to take any of those receivers over the last 2 years would have been real cool. Having anything that you could have put towards the offensive line also would have been real cool. But yeah, you were stuck taking kind of the scraps in the second, and you didn't really hit on it. Van Jefferson, I'm not going to shit on the guy, but he's certainly not of some of the other names that went last year. And I don't know much about Tutu Atwell. I watched a lot of ACC ball because it was sucked last year, but yeah, I'm not expecting that to be a anything but depth really at this point. So you didn't do much to improve the team through the draft, I guess. And really, you didn't make many moves. You ended up just losing a few guys here and there off the defense. You lost some defensive depth. You lost some defensive secondary. So, yeah, like not taking advantage of two pretty thick quality drafts hurts even more.
Yeah. And to kind of go back now and put a finer point on your question, Leonard Floyd, I do have Leonard Floyd better than replacement level. He is
he's still okay.
Yeah, he's
not a star.
He's not a star, but he's better than replacement level. Micah Kaiser, I have as squarely replacement level. Why do you have some greater insight on Micah Kaiser?
No, I just was trying to come up with like one more guy that I thought was okay. And I mean, there's a couple.
I like Micah Kaiser better than Terrell Lewis, and it looks like Terrell Lewis might have an important role on this team. Yeah, although actually he's been moved down the depth chart, so I may take that back. I think that maybe is a good move down the depth chart for him. Let me look at the will here. Justin Hollins. Justin Hollins. Yeah,
and as long as we're focusing on the defense, just opinion, how much did Staley matter? And
a lot.
Can somebody just step in and see if you have the talent? Because you say, well, you guys are talking out of both sides of your mouth now. You're not worried about losing the defensive coordinator in the Niners. It's because that has talent from here to Albuquerque, and me and Drew could coordinate that defense with, I think honestly, like Ted Lasso, they just read some books on the plane and they made us
be aggressive.
Yeah, like just go out there and do it, guys. But like when you are trying to make something like they have with the start and scrub approach work, you need a coach to pull that all together. And if Staley was the glue that made that happen, the straw that stirs the drink, you could see massive defensive attrition, and the quarterback upgrade suddenly doesn't make a big bump, and you're just a 9-win team again.
Yeah, I mean, we're making this point about Staley. I have high hopes for Staley and with the Chargers, but it was more than even just Staley. I think they lost. I did the math and I sent you the screenshot. I think they lost like 6 guys from the staff. Like the attrition to the coaching staff is being largely overlooked, underaccounted for, however you want to define that.
I would go with unlooked.
Unlooked. It's being
likely to be a word.
It's being under-evaluated in terms of what it could underreported, under-evaluated in terms of what it might mean. Let me tell you who is gone. The assistant head coach is gone. He is also the linebackers coach, Joe Barry. Assistant to the head coach was fired, Bill Nays. Passing game coordinator Shane Waldron is gone. He is now the OC for I forget. Is it it's Seattle. He's in division.
Yeah,
you lost him to a competitor. Assistant quarterbacks coach Liam Cohen is gone. Running back coach Thomas Brown is gone. Running game coordinator Aaron Cromer is gone. Assistant offensive line coach Andy Dickerson gone. Defensive coordinator Brandon Staley gone. Cornerbacks coach Aubrey Pleasant gone. Now, some of those may have been voluntary, but a lot of those were you got poached. And actually, I don't know if you remember, but this is an ongoing trend. Like, how many years in a row does Sean McVay's staff get rated? Like, literally, the rest of the NFL treats his staff as, the minor leagues for their coaching staffs, and they go and pick through these guys and hire them every year. And at some point, it's going to matter. It has to, and it may impact the game week to week preparation. It may impact the overall just the defense itself. Because you're right, my defensive rating on this team was the clear number one in the NFL last year. They had a decent gap between the number 2 defense, who is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very, very close, by the way, between Steelers, Saints, and Ravens is my number 2, 3, and 4 defenses. But yeah, this Rams defense, the likelihood that they finish number 1 again, considering all of the turnover to the coaching staff alone, is serious. And then we're not even talking about the players that they lost in the secondary. And speaking, you want to talk about, beating a consistent drum here, having a consistent message. If I love the fact that the Browns went out and got Troy Hill and Johnson, then I have to factor that into the fact that the Rams lost those guys. Like, those guys were freaking awesome down the stretch last year. They were huge part of this team. In fact, across my ratings, I had them as the number 3 and number 4 most valuable Rams overall after Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, and they're gone. So this is potentially a huge problem, and you're going to have to coach the hell up out of the guys that have taken their places, because it is going to be a lot to ask for, the likes of, let me look who's on the depth chart right now. Darius Williams, Robert Rochelle, David Long. That's it. Those are the only other 3 guys that you have who are cornerbacks on this roster after Jalen Ramsey. And if you can tell me any of those guys right now are better than replacement level, then I will do some serious digging, but I do not think I will get there.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I mentioned that the secondary, while it's hard to say, oh, it's a huge weakness when you still have Jalen Ramsey, but it still might be outside of that. And more than a lot of different things, maybe comparable to an offensive line, you can't just have one really good defender, because it's very easy to, oh, you have a really good high-end left tackle. Like, our pass rush is going to go elsewhere. And the same thing goes, like, oh, you have a really good cornerback. Yeah, you can shadow one of our receivers, and that sucks a little if you follow our best receiver around, but we can go elsewhere with the ball. We can throw away from him. We can scheme him out a little. Like, it is a unit. So that's a bit of an issue, I guess.
I should actually correct about, I slandered Darius Williams. Looking at my rankings again a little bit more closely, I had Darius Williams right there neck and neck with Johnson and Hill in terms of impact players in the secondary. So at least you got 2 guys still, but the depth is still a problem. Who's playing nickel slot for you? Who's playing nickel cornerback for you? Who's stepping in if something happens to either Williams or Ramsey? And realistically, a lot of the guys, it's possible that my ratings on these Rams from last year is skewed by the fact that Ramsey took away an entire half of the field. And that, yeah, I acknowledge that. Like, if you have somebody that's that dynamic in coverage, you can absolutely, make other players look good. And that may come back to bite me in the ass because I'm bullish as hell on the Browns. But the depth here is kind of the trump card, even over the dearth of frontline talent across this defense. And I think the deeper we go into the season, the more and more likely it is that that becomes an issue.
Sure. Yeah, we are a little down. I love getting a quarterback upgrade always, but I'm a little cautiously optimistic. Cautiously, what's the opposite? There needs to be a word that's not optimistic or pessimistic. It's not agnostic, just cautiously agnostic. I'm going to say it anyway. So I'm kind of middle of the road on this team. I don't think we reach greater heights, but I don't think this team falls off a cliff. So we are doing it on Wednesday, but it's kind of what we want to save to last. So should we peek at their schedule and see what awaits this team this year?
Let's do it.
They are again, facing similar schedule. It's actually, again, an easy-ish schedule because of the teams that you're going to face based on the fact that you get to face some of these divisions and that things are going to go a little better for
Oh,
you there. But at the
did you
same
see
time,
AD got the thesaurus out and he just destroying you over here? Ambivalent,
God,
apathetic, stoic. Those are all excellent words for
stoic,
how you
stoic
feel.
would have been a good one.
Agnostic. Yeah.
So, and the thing too is now we mentioned, you play your division, you play one division in your conference, you play one division outside of your conference, and you have 3 more games that get added on, and those are matched up to where you finished in the division. So the Rams were the Rams second?
They were second, yes.
They were second. So you finished second in the division. So you don't have a first place schedule. The issue is you drew the AFC North and the NFC South. Arguably the 2 best second place teams in the Ravens and Bucks. So you don't get the Saints, you get the Bucks instead. So by getting that second, and again you get the Giants, I guess, whatever, but you do end up with the
That's
Ravens,
true.
Bucks, Packers, and your division. So yeah, it's easy-ish still, but it's still there's some high-end teams on there.
Yeah. And again, there are soft spots here. Absolutely. This team is going to win games. They may be in the playoff mix. I will not deny them this. But all it will take is a little bit of a ding to Stafford, an injury to one of the offensive skill position players who we didn't even mention them, but that's a thin group too. You have Woods, Cup, and counting on a lot from Tyler Higbee, I guess. Van Jefferson going to make a huge leap this year? I don't know. Any one of those guys goes down, you're going to absolutely be in a difficult spot in terms of even making your upgraded quarterback worthwhile. Similarly, any injuries across your offensive line, you're going to be putting in guys who have not shown to really be able to make it at the NFL level. So, and oh, by the way, you're already down your most important running back, and you had to trade, and you gave away more assets to bring in
trade.
Sonny Michel. Okay. I mean, I feel like you could have gotten that exact production out of a guy who probably just got cut yesterday,
Yeah, you should just waited for this week when there's some guys out on the street deciding if they're gonna get their real estate license or play for the Rams. So, yeah, that's again, yeah. There's a lot of downside here because they're fragile. Our guy Plus EV would say it is a fragile team. They're not anti-fragile. They
are quite fragile.
They have quite a few things like just stars and scrubs. If they were hit with some sort of injury bug, a 10th of what happened to the Niners, they would be very fragile. And as you mentioned, it was the opposite of the Niners. Everybody kind of did stay healthy last year. So, and you make fun of those receivers they have, but if you're Stafford, you're happy with Van Jefferson. Like it's better than the Lions, arguably the worst wide receiver core in the country. So it's an upgrade for him, I guess, but it still might not be super fun. He does get a revenge spot versus Detroit. That'll be fun. They're a massive favorite there. There's some gimmies on here, like the Detroit game, the
Detroit Houston back to back. That's a nice little get right spot if you're having tough times at that point in the season. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I say they don't have the lowest floor because there are some easier games on here. And the Chicago stuff right off the bat, even Arizona at home, like you should get those wins. You have a couple more that are just over a field goal. Like the floor isn't super low. I'm not getting in on a all total here or anything. Just I'm kind of meh. I'm stoic. I'm uninspired in this team.
You're agnostic. You're no strong opinion. Okay. I want to be more on there. I want to be more aggressive towards their under than I was for sure a month ago. I mean, a month ago, I was basically like, well, they did upgrade the quarterback. I was kind of where everybody else was. Like, hey, this is a team that won a playoff game last year, and they just upgraded their quarterback position. How bad could it be? And then you dig in more and more into what they lost in coaching and some of the depth issues. and it becomes pretty obvious. This is a team you don't want to get involved with in the futures market, in my opinion. And they have a long tail to the under because of their fragile nature, as you would put it. The other thing about this team is there's a lot. The fact that they have such a high market rating in general, I think is going to play to my advantage. It's week by week, right? So really, instead of going too heavily into their wins total under or playoff no or anything like that, I really think just betting against them when the situation arises is the right attack, right? Betting on Tampa Bay week 3, if it's near Pick'em, is going to be super fun. Betting on Seattle week 5 in that Rockin' Stadium at near Pick'em is going to be fun.
Lumen Field.
I bet the under against Chicago Bears week 1, largely because I think that we can expect this defense is going to be healthy, and they're going to be going up against Andy Dalton playing behind no offensive line. Like, that's a nice matchup right there, and there's going to be opportunities to take advantage of the strengths of this team when they're healthy. And there's going to be opportunities to pretty much, to attack them, I think, in the point spread or on the total as we go through the season. I don't want to be super reductive and say this is like what's different about this team than the best Lions team Matthew Stafford was ever on. But I kind of feel like that's where we are. What's better? Tell me what is meaningfully better about this Rams team than the best Lions team with Jim Caldwell as coach and Ndamukong Suh on the D line and Calvin Johnson catching passes.
So I think I like some of those Lions teams better outside of the coach. Really, outside of the coach, they had some decent receiving cores. They constantly drafted wide receivers, and yes, we before the show we actually said which one of these teams should we do first, Rams or Niners, because their odds are really closely together, and it just doesn't make sense. So I mean, spoiler alert, we're not going to bet on this team to win the Super Bowl. We're not going to bet any of these odds. Like the under is steamed a little bit, so I'm a little worried about that. But I'm not super excited about getting involved with this team until I can start fading them. If they have a good performance, they have shitty teams on their like we mentioned.
A lot, yeah,
they have some auto wins on this schedule. If Stafford looks really good, which is kind of what he can do, he looks really good against a bad team, and then they face a marginal or a good team, you're going to get some value. Like, they're going to be a bet against team in situations like that. I will not bet against this team with big spreads with shitty teams. I think this is enough of a coaching and quarterback advantage that they can take care of business against bad teams. I'm not saying I'm not laying the points either. Those are just stay away or look at the total. But it's going to be a bet against, or maybe some unders. If honestly, who's the best defense they're facing?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Honestly, we shit on the Bears a little, but it might be the Bears.
It's the
Niners, obviously, but like
the Niners,
outside of it's clearly the Niners, but
Tampa's defense.
Oh, I forgot Tampa's in there too. Yeah, I guess my top 2 defenses I rank. Those would be the ones. But
hey, they got to play against some of the best. Hey, they got to play against a bunch of the best linebackers in the NFL. They got to play Fred Warner. They got to play Bobby Wagner. They got to play Darius Leonard. They got to play Devin White and Levante David combo. Blake Martinez, I have relatively high for the Giants.
We were high on the Giants, sort of, as far as the defense.
That's wild. Pieces. That's wild that we just went through completely off the cuff on the linebacker thing. They got to play Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith is my 4th best linebacker. They literally the top 10 linebackers in my ratings are almost all on this Rams schedule. That's bizarre.
I need to do a research project on Matthew Stafford versus good linebackers.
Yeah. So fade the Rams running game, I think, is where I'm at here.
Sure. All right, let's pull up the odds and
fade the tight end too.
Shut the page. I'm trying to think of other ways to say that. Where's AD now? Put a bow on, close the book, finish the sentence. 12-1, 6-1, 2-1.
Tie a ribbon around
Super Bowl. Super Bowl. No, that's a song.
Is that a thing?
That's what you did, around the old oak tree. Super Bowl's 12, NFC 6, NFC West 2-1. Nope. Make the playoffs. Juicy, yes. I actually kind of tempted at the no because there's other teams in the NFC I like a little better that might be around that same 8 to 10 win range. And the season win total is a juicy under, and it's easy enough schedule that I'm not laying the juice on that. So, like we said, probably a bet against when the market is too high on this team during the season. That's might be it for them.
Yeah, I think that's true. The God, I looked hard at under 9.5 in the alt wins market too. It was, I think, like plus 160. I didn't play it, but I looked really hard. I wonder if I'll regret that.
I never regret anything.
Yeah.
I regret running my Zed horse too much today.
Oh, really?
Now they have fatigue now, and now he's tired, and I can't play with him. I need to play
Oh, dude.
Horse.
You didn't
I regret not
factor
owning more
in the
Ethereum.
fatigue. Yeah, buying more Zed horses. You didn't factor in you didn't use the fatigue factor for your horse. Just you're running your horse. God, dude.
I heard that factor is no longer viable.
It's no longer viable. It's no longer an angle for running. For running.
Figured it out.
The market has figured it out. All right. Well, I think that should do it for us. I'm excited for the next two pods. Let's call this one. Let's call it. Let's wrap it. Let's wrap.
Let's regroup at an undisclosed location, unknown time. We're not going to tell you when this bonus. If you're not subscribed to the AD, you better hit the subscribe button. AD, you owe me that for all the gardening advice I've given you over.
Hey, what was what are you and AD on for golf this weekend? Big golf. This is the tour finals, tour championship.
Antoine Rosner.
No. Not the Italian Open. Not the Italian Open. Not the corn. I don't want the Corn Ferry Championship.
Nobody gives a shit about the Tour Championship.
Oh, come on, bullshit.
Out of all the sports, it is the worst way to end the season. He says good. JT.
I like that.
I played Xander to be the lowest score. I didn't play any outrights to actually win the tournament. I don't like that market this week at all. So I played a few to be the lowest score, and I faded Morikawa, even though he says my back feels better.
Isn't it easier to handicap a field of 30 than a handicap a field of 130? I don't understand.
Not for matchups. I prefer matchups. I don't like, even though I've had a good year for outrights, I prefer matchups.
No, PGA is the worst this week. Interesting.
It's think about the Final Four, the Super Bowl, Game 7, Lakers, Celtics. Hockey, overtime, playoffs. Every one of those things is so no. Everything is so awesome. Those things are so awesome. Instead, we have a golf tournament that's also during or the BCS Championship. Fucking Vince Young running into the end zone. My God, all those things are a million by factors of a million better than how the golf ends their season. They just have not figured out. They need to just put a major at the end of the season.
Well, tennis is the same problem.
Yeah, but I don't consider tennis to have an end. It kind of has a.
There's the tour finals.
No, but again, I think that one's kind of cool too. I think the tour finals, the tour finals isn't just money, although there's a lot of money there too. So, all right. As I wax poetic about golf.
Best of luck, Week 1 college football. It's going to be a fun appetizer for Week 1 NFL. See you in Vegas next week. See you on 2 more podcasts that we're going to record before we call it a week. We are that dedicated to the craft that we just record. Constantly recording podcasts for you guys. So you're welcome.